You know that feeling, don't you? They're in a conversation, maybe catching up with an old friend or perhaps navigating a new professional connection, and a phrase pops up, something you hear all the time, but just for a second, you hesitate. What's the real intention behind, say, what are you up to these days? Or, when it's time to make your exit, how do you manage that delicate dance of politeness without sounding abrupt? These seemingly simple English phrases, the ones we use every single day, they carry this immense, often unspoken social weight. They're like the invisible threads weaving together our interactions, shaping how we connect, how we leave, and how we keep those vital connections alive. If that resonates with you, well, then you are in exactly the right place. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're not just scratching the surface. We're taking a deep, detailed look at a handful of these common, yet absolutely crucial English phrases. Our mission is clear. We want to strip away any ambiguity, demystify these expressions, and ultimately empower you to use them with, well, natural confidence and authentic grace, really, in any social setting. We want you to feel completely at ease, understanding not just the words, but the subtle power they hold, that power to transform your interactions.
And that transformation, that ability to navigate social nuances with ease, that's precisely the value we aim to unlock for you today. Think of this deep dive as your direct pathway, maybe even a shortcut, to mastering those subtle social interactions in English. It goes far beyond just memorizing phrases. It's really about grasping why these expressions are chosen, when they're most impactful, and the deeper social signals they communicate. Because, as we always seem to come back to, true knowledge is most valuable not when it's merely acquired, right? But when it's profoundly understood and you can actually apply it directly to enrich your life, making your communication more effective, more genuine.
Absolutely. And to guide us through this intricate linguistic landscape, we've been immersing ourselves in a really insightful resource, Everyday English, Essential Phrases Explained. It's a bit of a treasure trove, honestly, packed with practical examples, illuminating scenarios, and precise insights into these common phrases. It's going to serve as our compass today as we navigate the ins and outs of conversational English, revealing how these everyday expressions become, well, powerful tools in your communication toolkit. So let's jump right in and start making your English feel even more natural, more nuanced, and ultimately much more impactful. All right, let's dive into our first phrase. This one's a real staple of English conversation. What are you up to these days? Now, at first glance, it seems pretty straightforward, doesn't it? Like just a simple question. But it's much more than just that. It's an invitation, really. A quintessential friendly greeting. And truly, it's a go-to for catching up with someone you haven't seen or spoken to in a little while. It just carries this inherent warmth and open-ended feel that immediately signals, hey, I'm interested in you and I'm actually ready to listen.
Absolutely. You've nailed it. At its core, what are you up to these days is indeed an informal inquiry. It's about someone's current activities, their general well-being, or any notable developments in their life since you last properly talked. But the real insight here, I think, is that it's not merely a question. It's more like a low-stakes social probe. It implicitly acknowledges that time has passed, maybe suggesting you haven't been in regular recent contact. And it signals a genuine desire to reconnect, to update each other on what's been happening. It's a very human way of reestablishing connection, and it gives both people an out, doesn't it? You can offer a brief update or a whole narrative. It lets you gauge the relational temperature, so to speak, without explicit commitment, which makes it a kind of masterclass in modern social navigation, really.
And the scenarios where this phrase truly shines are just so relatable, aren't they? I mean, imagine you're just out, maybe grabbing your morning coffee, and bam, you unexpectedly bump into an old friend, someone you haven't seen in months. After that initial, universally recognized long time no see, what's the next natural thing that flows? More often than not, it's, so what are you up to these days? And just like that, the phrase swings open the door to sharing. They might tell you about a new job they just started, or some fascinating new hobby they've picked up, or even just a funny story about their weekend. The beauty is, it doesn't demand some grand confession, but it definitely invites one if they want to share.
Yeah, and it's not just for those chance encounters either. Think about reaching out to an acquaintance you haven't spoken to in a while. Maybe you don't have a specific agenda, right? You're just doing a casual check-in. Instead of a blunt, maybe awkward start, a gentle re-engagement, like, hey, just calling to say hi, what are you up to these days? That sets a completely different tone, much friendlier, much more open.
It's a really respectful way to sort of re-enter someone's orbit, you know?
Exactly. In these precise scenarios, the phrase functions as a remarkably effective icebreaker and a profoundly human conversation starter. It telegraphs genuine interest, rather than just a superficial greeting. It's not just a polite formality. It's more like an overture to truly re-engage. showing that you value the relationship and you're actually curious about the trajectory of their life. By asking this, you're paving the way for a potentially deeper discussion about their personal or professional updates. Moving gracefully beyond just surface-level pleasantries, it subtly gives them permission to share as much or as little as they feel comfortable with, instantly setting a warm, receptive, and, importantly, non-pressured atmosphere. We should probably consider the grammar here too, the present continuous tense and what are you up to? It's not asking for a single past event, but an ongoing state. It invites a dynamic narrative of what's been happening, not just a static answer. That grammatical choice itself makes it a more inviting and open-ended starter.
That's fascinating. And what's truly interesting here, and I think maybe many of us don't consciously realize this, is how this specific phrase signals a desire to reconnect on a much more personal level. It moves well beyond a simple hello or even the standard how are you, well, how are you, often gets that brief, almost reflexive, I'm fine answer, after which the conversational ball is often just lobbed right back into your court. What are you up to these days? Prompts a much more detailed, often narrative response. It's almost like an invitation for a mini story about their recent life. It implies you're not just making small talk, you're genuinely ready to listen and engage with what they have to say, which is an incredibly powerful and inviting social cue, isn't it? It's like offering your time and attention.
You've hit on a really crucial distinction there. If we compare it to other greetings, its unique nuance becomes strikingly clear. How are you? Is frequently just a conversational placeholder, particularly in transactional or very brief encounters. And in many contexts, there's no real expectation of a detailed answer. But what are you up to these days implicitly acknowledges an ongoing, even if maybe dormant, relationship. And it expresses a deeper, more invested curiosity about someone's evolving life. It's about maintaining a bond, showing that you value the person and their experiences beyond just this immediate moment. Moreover, it implies quite strongly, actually, that the speaker is prepared to listen to a more extended, thoughtful answer. That's a key difference in how it's received and, more importantly, how it's usually responded to. It's a genuine commitment to the conversation, signaling, hey, I have time for you.
So for those of you listening, diligently honing your English skills, mastering what are you up to these days, will immediately make your English sound incredibly natural, friendly, and authentically interested in others. It's one of those small, almost invisible linguistic adjustments, right? But it can significantly enhance your social interactions, making you feel more connected and making others feel genuinely more valued. It really transforms a potentially perfunctory greeting into a warm, inviting act of connection.
And we connect this to the bigger picture. Using this phrase appropriately really helps you build social rapport and integrate much more smoothly into English-speaking social circles. It demonstrates not just linguistic competence, which is great, but also a sophisticated level of cultural and conversational awareness. You're showing that you understand the unspoken rules of connection, the nuances of genuine engagement. And this raises an important question for us all to consider, perhaps. How does expressing authentic interest through phrases that actually invite real conversation fundamentally shape the trajectory of a relationship? Or even just a casual conversation. It doesn't just open a door. It sort of invites someone to step inside and maybe stay a while.
Okay, so once you've beautifully reconnected using what are you up to these days, well, the challenge often shifts, doesn't it? It becomes about how to politely step away. We've all been there, right? You're enjoying a conversation, the company is delightful, but deep down it's time to leave. Perhaps you have another appointment or you simply need to head home. So how do you gracefully disengage without making things feel awkward or even worse, rude? Well, that brings us to our next essential phrase. I'd better get going. This, in many ways, is like a universal social superpower, a remarkably useful and polite phrase for ending a conversation or leaving a place with finesse.
Precisely. We can define "I'd better get going" as a polite yet firm way to signal your intention to depart. It often implies a reason or an obligation, even if you don't explicitly state it. It functions as a crucial linguistic softener, not some abrupt announcement. Instead of just saying goodbye, which, let's face it, can sometimes feel sudden and a bit dismissive, this phrase subtly prepares the other person. It gives them a moment to wrap up their thoughts, offer a final comment, or exchange pleasantries. It gently sets the stage for your departure, ensuring a smooth transition rather than a jarring halt. And the key isn't just the going, is it? It's the auxiliary verb better. I'd better implies this subtle sense of obligation or necessity, often external to the current interaction. That makes the departure feel less personal and more about managing your wider responsibilities. It's a linguistic softener that really manages expectations.
Yeah, that better really does a lot of work. Let's bring this to life with some examples. Imagine them unfolding. Picture yourself at a lively party or some social gathering. You've had a truly wonderful time, engaged in great conversations, but you know you need to head home. Maybe an early start tomorrow. So instead of just vanishing into the crowd or abruptly blurting out a sudden goodbye, you can approach the person you're talking to and say something like, "It's been great catching up with you. I really enjoyed our chat, but Mo, I'd better get going. I've got an early start tomorrow." For that reason, even a small, seemingly insignificant one like an early start provides context. It makes your departure feel less about them and more about your own schedule and commitments. Or consider a really common scenario. Ending a phone call. You're chatting with a friend, the conversation's flowing nicely, but you suddenly remember you have another commitment looming. Perhaps another call waiting or an errand you need to run. You might gently interject with, "Well, listen, I'd better get going. I actually have another call waiting." This is a gentle, clear signal that the conversation needs to wrap up. But crucially, it does so without making the other person feel rushed, unimportant, or like they've somehow overstayed their welcome on the call. It respects both your time and theirs.
These scenarios really highlight how effectively this phrase manages expectations for your departure without being rude or abrupt. And the inclusion, or even just the implication, of a brief excuse, as you noted, is often critical for maintaining social harmony. The implied reason for leaving softens the impact, ensuring no offense is taken. It provides a brief but crucial window for those final goodbyes, maybe for making plans to meet again or just exchanging other pleasantries. It allows for a graceful, unhurried transition out of the interaction. It's a very considerate and frankly mature way to manage your time and other obligations within a social context. It prioritizes both efficiency and respect.
Right. And this phrase is just so incredibly valuable because it allows for that vital brief wrap up. It actively prevents an abrupt departure that can leave both people feeling a bit awkward or maybe even confused. It truly creates a smooth, almost elegant transition rather than an uncomfortable or sudden exit, which is a small but incredibly significant detail in the whole tapestry of social interactions. It shows profound respect, not just for the person you're speaking with, but also for the conversation you've just shared.
What's truly fascinating here, I think, is its crucial and often underestimated role in social etiquette. I'd better get going. Conveys respect for the other person's time, yes, but perhaps even more importantly, respect for the interaction itself. It ensures goodwill is maintained, preventing the other person from feeling cut off or somehow undervalued. It adds this nuanced layer of politeness and often a subtle sense of urgency compared to simply saying goodbye. That better component implies a necessary action, doesn't it? A gentle push toward your next commitment. It makes your departure seem understandable rather than arbitrary. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, mastering this phrase reflects a sophisticated understanding of social graces and the ability to manage one's commitments gracefully within a social framework. It's about being effective and considerate, which is really a hallmark of strong social intelligence.
Definitely. So for those of you listening, aiming for greater fluency and comfort in English, mastering this phrase gives you that tangible confidence to end interactions politely and without awkwardness. This is a skill that's often overlooked when the focus is mostly on, initiating conversations, but it's incredibly valuable for navigating your day-to-day life and leaving consistently positive last impressions. It's really about closing a social loop gracefully.
And this raises an important question we should probably delve into. How does choosing the right exit phrase fundamentally impact your overall impression on someone? Using "I'd better get going" skillfully not only helps you manage your time and commitments effectively, but it also consistently reinforces your image as a thoughtful, considerate communicator. It speaks volumes about your consideration for others and your ability to navigate social situations with finesse, turning what could potentially be an awkward moment into a testament to your social intelligence.
Okay, let's unpack our next phrase, because this one, well, it's about much more than just saying goodbye. It's intrinsically linked to the future and the delicate art of maintaining connections. The phrase is, "keep in touch." This is such a fundamental phrase for expressing the desire to maintain communication with someone. Whether they're a brand new acquaintance you've just really clicked with, or an old friend you maybe won't see for a while, it's an act of hopeful, intentional connection.
Absolutely. Keep in touch is an invitation, or perhaps sometimes a polite request, to continue communicating, whether that's regularly, occasionally, or even just through more passive means these days, after a present interaction ends. It inherently implies a value placed on the relationship or the interaction that has just occurred. You're signaling that the connection is worth preserving, that you genuinely hope to hear from them again, and that you are open to continuing the relationship in some form. It's a very forward-looking phrase that seeds future engagement.
hmm And the scenarios for using keep in touch are just abundant, aren't they? And often they feel quite heartfelt. Like, imagine you've just spent a really fun, engaging evening with a new friend you met at a social event. As you're saying your goodbyes at the end of the night, maybe exchanging numbers or social media details, you might genuinely say, "It was truly great meeting you. I had a fantastic time. Let's keep in touch." It's an earnest, hopeful way to express that you'd like to follow up and maybe deepen this burgeoning connection.
Yeah, or think about a more professional context. Parting ways with a colleague after successfully completing a complex project together. Especially if one of you is moving on to a new role or maybe a different company, you could certainly say, "Good luck with your new role. I really enjoyed working with you. Let's definitely keep in touch." Hmm. This demonstrates sincere appreciation for the professional relationship you've built. And it expresses a desire for it to continue, perhaps evolving into a valuable networking contact or even a future collaboration. It validates the shared experience.
In both those scenarios, the phrase clearly emphasizes that there's a desire for the relationship or connection to extend beyond the immediate interaction. It's about establishing a foundation for future communication, whether that involves expanding a professional network or nurturing a budding friendship. It's a proactive statement demonstrating that you're not just moving on, but actively seeking to maintain the thread of connection, which is just vital for building lasting relationships in both personal and professional spheres. It actively moves the relationship from a static, one-off encounter to an ongoing possibility. It transforms a moment into a potential journey.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting, especially when we consider our rapidly evolving modern world. Think about the wide spectrum of sincerity with this phrase. It can range from a profound, genuine, heartfelt intent all the way to a polite, almost ritualistic formality, right? And what does keeping in touch actually mean in the modern digital age? Seriously, is it a quick text message, an email update maybe once a year, a social media follow like a LinkedIn connection? Or does it still sometimes imply a traditional phone call or even a future in-person meeting? And how do those expectations vary depending on the depth of the relationship, the specific context, and even the individual preferences of the people involved? The very definition and the implied methods of connection have become incredibly fluid. It's like a social contract that's constantly being rewritten.
That's such a crucial point. What's truly fascinating here is how the meaning, and crucially, the implied methods of communication, adapt so fluidly and rapidly to both the context and the depth of the specific relationship. For a close friend moving halfway across the world, keep in touch might genuinely mean regular video calls, shared photo albums, active reciprocal communication. But for a casual acquaintance from a conference, it might simply mean a silent agreement to follow each other's updates on social media, a form of passive observation without direct active interaction. The true insight here, I believe, is that keeping in touch has kind of fragmented. It can now paradoxically mean that passive observation, that silent agreement to follow someone's life through social media without necessarily interacting directly. This shift demands a new literacy, doesn't it? In interpreting commitment levels based on the chosen digital channels. From a LinkedIn connect to a WhatsApp message, each carries a different weight of expectation. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it highlights the universal human need for connection and continuity, even across distances or changes in circumstances, and how that need is expressed through increasingly diverse means. And this raises a critically important question. How has the rapid evolution of technology redefined, and frankly complicated, the practical application and expectation of keeping in touch compared to previous generations? When it often meant letters or occasional scheduled phone calls, the social contract of connection is undeniably and often subtly shifted.
Wow, yeah. So for those of you listening, building your network and aiming for deeper integration into English-speaking communities, this phrase, keep in touch, is absolutely key for building and maintaining both your social and professional networks. It's a straightforward yet profoundly powerful tool to transform what might otherwise be fleeting interactions into meaningful, ongoing relationships. It gives you an explicit, universally understood way to express that desire for continuity.
Exactly. It's a powerful yet deceptively simple tool for transforming those fleeting interactions into potentially lasting relationships. And this doesn't just enrich your personal life with deeper connections and broader support systems, but it can also open up valuable professional opportunities down the line, maybe a mentor, a collaborator, a future employer. It's truly about sowing the seeds for future engagement and cultivating a robust personal and professional ecosystem around you.
So, what does all this mean for showing respect and thoughtfulness in your communications? Especially when you're not speaking directly to someone, but you wish to extend greetings through an intermediary. That brings us nicely to our fourth phrase, send my regards to you. This is a specific, often nuanced, and I think incredibly thoughtful way to convey greetings or good wishes to someone indirectly via a third party. It adds this lovely, almost elegant layer of social grace to your interactions.
You've articulated that perfectly. We can define send my regards to as a more formal or perhaps semi-formal way of asking someone to pass on your good wishes or greetings to a third person. It inherently implies a specific degree of respect or warmth or an established relationship with that third person, even if you can't greet them directly yourself in that moment. It's a deliberate, conscious act of maintaining connection through an intermediary, demonstrating your awareness of the broader social web you're both part of.
The scenarios where this phrase is used really highlight its depth and its specific utility, don't they? Imagine you're speaking to a colleague whose spouse you know. Perhaps you met them at a company picnic a few months back, or maybe at a social event. As you're saying goodbye to your colleague, you might genuinely add, "It was great seeing you. Please send my regards to your husband." Now, this doesn't just mean a casual say hi. It shows you remember him, you acknowledge his presence in their life, and you're extending a polite, considered greeting. It feels like a more personal and respectful gesture that strengthens those indirect ties.
Right.
Or consider talking to a friend who is planning a visit to your mutual, maybe elderly aunt. Given the age and the perhaps more traditional familial relationship, a simple say hi might feel a little too casual, a bit lightweight. So you might tell your friend, "Oh, give my best to Aunt Mary when you see her, and please send my regards to her for me." Here, regards conveys that more formal respect, often due to age, position, or a long-standing relationship. It elevates the greeting beyond the everyday and imbues it with a sense of deference and continued affection. It underscores the value you place on that connection.
Those scenarios clearly analyze how this phrase is often employed when you can't personally convey the greeting yourself, or when a more formal and respectful tone is simply more appropriate for the relationship dynamics and sometimes cultural expectations. It's a deliberate act of thoughtfulness that strengthens those indirect ties within a social network. By using this phrase, you're not just sending a message, you're actively engaging in what you could call social maintenance, acknowledging relationships even when direct contact isn't possible or practical. It signifies an awareness of social connections and a desire to honor them, projecting a sense of social intelligence and consideration.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting, when we start digging into its nuanced implications. Consider the critical difference in the level of formality and warmth compared to a casual say hi or even give my best. While say hi is a quick informal nod and give my best carries a genuine wish for well-being, send my regards is unique. It carries a weight of respect, a sense of formality, or perhaps a deeper, more enduring warmth that say hi doesn't quite capture. It seems often reserved for those you hold in a certain esteem, maybe an elder, a former mentor, a respected colleague, or just someone whose relationship warrants a more formal acknowledgement. It communicates respect and recollection in a way the others don't quite achieve. It's not just a message, it feels more like a gesture of continued connection, recognition, and consideration for that third party, indicating that they are significant enough to warrant a more formal acknowledgement from you.
What's profoundly fascinating here is its significant social function. It helps maintain and acknowledge relationships even when direct interaction isn't possible, thereby demonstrating a sophisticated level of social intelligence. You're navigating a social network subtly and effectively, reinforcing bonds even at a distance. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it reflects a nuanced understanding of social circles, of decorum, and the critical importance of indirect communication in fostering and preserving community bonds. It speaks to a deeper understanding of human relationships and the care taken to nurture them. Which leads us to an important question to ponder. When is regards more appropriate and perhaps more impactful than a simple hello or say hi? The choice of phrase in this instance truly reveals a lot about the nature of the relationship and your intention to honor it. It's about demonstrating an awareness of maybe the social hierarchy or the emotional investment in that relationship.
Absolutely. So, for those of you mastering English, using this phrase correctly really signals cultural competence. It shows genuine consideration and a more sophisticated command of English social interactions. It shows you understand not just the words, but the intricate, unspoken rules of politeness and respect within a given social context. It's definitely a hallmark of thoughtful communication.
Precisely. It allows you to maintain and build connections even with people you're not directly interacting with at that moment, demonstrating a thoughtful and mature approach to communication. And beyond mere politeness, send my regards functions as a subtle form of social capital, doesn't it? The insight is that by invoking a third party in this respectful way, you're not just sending a message, you're demonstrating your awareness of and connection to the broader social web, subtly reinforcing your own position within that network and building goodwill by proxy. It's a powerful, yet really understated tool for enhancing your social presence and reputation. #HackOutro.
Wow, what an insightful journey we've had today. We've taken a really deep dive, haven't we? Meticulously unpacking 4 incredibly powerful, yet often deceptively simple, phrases that are just absolutely essential for navigating everyday English. What are you up to these days? I'd better get going, keep in touch, and send my regards to. It's truly amazing how these seemingly small linguistic units can make such a profound and lasting impact on your communication and on the strength of your connections. They're not just words, they're like these refined tools and a master conversationalist kit.
They really are. And it's crucial to remember that these aren't just isolated words to be memorized in a vacuum. They are vital, dynamic tools for navigating complex social landscapes, for building and diligently maintaining relationships, and for expressing genuine intent, empathy, and respect. In a world of information overload where communication can sometimes feel a bit superficial or transactional, critical thinking about how we say things is absolutely essential. Understanding these nuances is really key to connecting on a deeper, more meaningful level. There's always more to learn, isn't there? And considering these multiple perspectives on how simple phrases function truly enriches our understanding of language, of human psychology, and of the intricate dance of social interaction. So as you move through your day, I'd encourage you to actively listen for these phrases and conversations around you. Pay close attention to when they are used, how they are delivered, and the responses they elicit. Then, maybe consider which of these small, powerful expressions might open a new door for you, deepen an existing connection, or simply make your next interaction a little smoother, a little more authentic. How can these seemingly simple words truly transform the way you connect with the world around you? One thoughtful phrase at a time. Moving beyond just exchanging information to truly building rapport and understanding.
That's a truly fantastic and provocative thought to leave you with, and it perfectly encapsulates the spirit of the deep dive. We genuinely encourage you to actively practice using these phrases in your own conversations this week. Pay attention to the context, lean into the nuance we've discussed, and observe how they subtly yet significantly shape your interactions. You might be amazed at the tangible difference they make in how you're perceived and how you connect. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the heart of everyday English. Keep exploring, keep learning, and we look forward to our next insightful deep dive together.